Episode 41 of Beyond the Blast Doors. David with you, along with Jesse Buck, David Gilbert. Excited to be here, and where it started out to be a week where we thought we would have nothing to talk about, where we would maybe just have to sit in front of a TV and watch The Last Jedi and give you commentary on that. No, the internet has saved us. We have a lot to get to. We have Lando Calrissian possibly back in 9. We have a slew of stories to get to in Pages, Pixels, or Pieces, especially that Star Wars number 50, which I thought was exceptional, and one of the few times where the main line and the Darth Vader line come out at the same time, and I actually like the main line more. Doesn't happen very often. But first things first, John Kasdan is aware of Beyond the Blast Doors.
Which is cool.
Which is pretty cool.
I'm stoked about it.
He was like tweeting about something not Star Wars related, because every time he tweets about Star Wars, someone has to be a jerk.
They blow up at him.
And I just dropped by and was like, hey, man, just thank you so much for a fun adventure. Really appreciate it. He hit us back. He's like, hey, dude, we really appreciate it too. And if the Solo sequel is in 2023, it's good for us.
I would love to see a sequel. I really would. Like, not right away. I want this to kind of sink in. Maybe some of the drama
Well, yeah. The movie sets up a sequel.
I want more Darth Maul.
This really was a good movie, though.
What about Darth Maul? You want a Darth Maul movie?
I want more.
You want more?
No, I think these are going to be the Darth Maul movies. If they're going to continue making them, he'll have a bigger presence in the next one.
I would be happy with that.
I'd be happy with
at the very least, if the movie drops in 2023, the sequel to Solo, you heard it first here on Beyond the Blast Doors. You're welcome, John Kasdan. We love you. Let's go ahead and dive into to Star Wars news. Let's start with what's going on the screen, whether that's the movie screen or the TV screen. Billy D. Williams. He will be reprising his role, supposedly, in Episode 9, the untitled Episode 9.
Do you think they did that simply because Carrie's gone and Mark's been killed off and Harrison's been killed off? Do you think they're only bringing him in just because they need some connection to the original trilogy? Or do you think this was part of the design?
I think it's one of those things that they might have decided later on. If you look at Episode 8, I don't think he fits. I think you could have put Lando in Episode 7, but does it best serve to put all the original trilogy characters in that first movie back and then have to dispose of them? I mean, I also don't agree with the mentality that they all have to die by the end of this trilogy. I think they can tie a bow on it and they can still keep people alive, just like how they did it with Return of the Jedi, right? I think it's a very good move to have Lando Calrissian in Episode 9. Maybe he went off to do a mission and now he's back. Maybe he did hear the distress call from at the end of Last Jedi when they put out Leia's code and no one responds. Maybe someone did respond. They just couldn't get there in time. Jesse, what do you think? I don't know. That's a good question.
Just in general, I enjoyed Calrissian in Solo quite a bit. With that being said, and I didn't trust him in Empire and everything. I was, obviously, I always felt uncomfortable with him wearing Han's clothing.
Role play.
Yeah, really odd, considering that Han doesn't rock a cape. But the thing that makes me really happy about this is that there was a photo of Billy D at, I think, the last celebration, and he just looked so depressed. Now, I could be wrong on that. Okay, but no, it feels like he's like a very unappreciated character.
You think he's unappreciated?
Yeah.
There is no cooler dude in Star Wars than Lando Calrissian.
Again, it may have been just how I interpreted this picture, but it made me sad because he was invited to this panel.
You don't think it's to do with the fact that he's 79 years old at the time and kind of overweight? I'd be bummed about that.
Well,
I'm old and fat.
No, it's just he's sitting there and they're talking about The Last Jedi, and it's all focused on Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill, and he's just like,
I'm here too.
He's a fan favorite, but he's not part of the core group. I don't
know. So I'm happy that if this is true that he's coming back, because I think a nice tie-in point would be, they could have, I think, introduced a brief moment with him in Last Jedi when they were talking to maybe Maz through the hologram.
But you have already so many more new characters that you introduced in 8.
So, I mean, I don't know. I definitely would love to see him as long as he doesn't put on Han's clothes.
Can I make a comment real quick? So before anyone chastises me about calling Billy D. Williams fat and old, he is 80 now, so that's
81.
81. He's older.
Wow.
He's older.
April 6th, 1937.
But I want you to go back 5 episodes where we talked about rumors that Billy D. had jumped on a new workout and diet plan. So he is getting back into shape for this role, and I say everything in jest, nothing in offense.
I'm not working out. We're done at that point.
You know what? I'm sure they're giving him a chunk of change to make it all worthwhile. Here's my question. And you were about to say something, so did you have something else you want to throw out there?
Yeah.
Well, here's my question. How big of a role will Lando have in episode 9? Is he... Let's start there. How big of a role will he have, Jesse?
Moderate. We'll go with a moderate role.
Okay.
I think it'll be more than a cameo, but I won't think he'll be the main guy. Maybe like an Admiral Holdo type, because at the end of The Last Jedi, our rebellion is very, very small, and it has no chance against the Knights of Ren and Kylo going out there. They need to bolster their forces, and this is where I see Billy D. Williams maybe getting that distress call, and Lando coming to the aid by saying, hey, I got some people who can help, and bam, we suddenly have a big rebellion again.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. My wondering is he somehow still involved with the galactic government? Did he somehow get into politics after his success with the rebellion in the original trilogy?
He would have been killed on one of those 5 governing planets.
Maybe, but like there could have been a way. He could have been on a diplomatic whatever. You never know. Or was he still with the rebellion or the resistance on another mission, and now he's coming back? I'm kind of interested to see how they bring him back, but plus or minus 10 minutes in this movie. Are we going to get more than 10 minutes with Lando in episode 9?
Well, the other thing, he could have went back to Cloud City. That was his mining operation, and I believe a little bit further on, we'll kind of circle around to fan theory.
So do you think 10 or less or 10 or more minutes?
I'd say 10 or more. I mean, like, he has a lot of useful... He's a skilled pilot. I mean, for heaven's sakes, he flew the Millennium Falcon into the second Death Star.
It'll be kind of cool to see him back in the cockpit of the Falcon with Chewie. That would be really nice. That would tug on my heartstrings a little bit. I don't want to see him in Han's clothes again, but to see him back in the cockpit of the Falcon.
I think there would be a very emotional moment because he knows, like, despite their differences, they were friends, and knowing that one of his friends died very tragically. And then, also the ship, maybe, remembering, moments on that ship with Han, Chewie.
Remember where we are on that timeline, too, right? Because if I go by where we are with Solo, the movie Solo, I don't trust Lando at all. He's truly that swindler, no good for nothing. Now we're in the post Return of the Jedi era where he's a good guy. Lando is good. He has realized that he's got nothing else but to fight for the good cause, helps the rebellion against the second Death Star. I would believe, I've been wrong, I thought Luke Skywalker would be the old, wise, masterful Jedi, which he kind of was in The Last Jedi, to be fair. But I would assume that Lando would have been promoted to a high rank within the rebellion, maybe gotten some political prowess as well. So we'll see how that factors in. Anything we haven't touched with Lando that you want to get out there, guys? No. I think it's really exciting to have that original trilogy character back into the mix. I think it's important, and I also think that he plays a good role now, although it would have been cool to see him and Han brush elbows once. Did you? I thought you had a thought. You keep like sucking it back in your mouth.
No, we're good.
I see the thought halfway out, and then you just suck it back in.
I'm not a Lando Calrissian fan. I'm not.
But they're killing our childhood, David. Aren't you excited that he'll be back to die too?
Maybe.
Maybe that's why they're bringing him back.
So they... they've killed everybody else. Somebody's got to live.
I don't think they would bring... I don't think you can bring back every original trilogy character to kill them off. Like, I'd like to see him make it through 9. I'd like to see Wedge and Tilly somehow come back for episode 9.
That would be nice.
Dennis Lawson getting over himself and coming back to be in the final movie would be pretty epic, considering he's also the uncle of Ewan McGregor. Fun trivia fact. Wedge is
I would
Obi-Wan's
love to see
uncle.
Wedge back and like, because think about like in the expanded, he's like a general in the old expanded. universe.
Think about Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy. He plays a big role in that.
Yeah, like Wedge, come back.
Come on, Lawson. Come on.
I just think he's a neutral character who's an opportunist. I don't see him as a hero. I've never seen him as a hero. I mean, what were his options? Stay on Cloud City, or where he basically ruined the entire mining operation by selling out to the Empire, or go with these rebellion people?
I don't think that was really a choice. I mean, as a kid, I saw it that way, but like the more and more that I've gone back and watched the trilogy,
what Lando did for that,
he was. What are you going to do? Like, I mean, especially now, like add in everything now, like with what happened on Mon Cala and everything, like. do you want to see like hundreds of people just absolutely just obliterated or
Yes.
murdered and everything?
What the character also does, though, is brings diversity to the galaxy, which is a theme that we're still arguing in 2018. But, I said it just a moment ago. He's a good-looking black man that plays a pivotal role in this story. He became the character that I think a lot of fans could identify with that they didn't have in that first movie.
See, I don't think if Donald Glover hadn't done such a good job in the Solo movie, I don't think that we'd have Billy D coming back.
I don't know. I disagree with that because there's been such an outcry from the fan base. And again, how big of a portion the online community is, it's probably very minuscule compared to the whole thing. But
They're
like
just the loud
a
ones.
lot of people, right, they're just the loud ones. There are a lot of people that have wanted him back since the beginning. I mean, that was the whole point of when we found out that there was going to be a sequel trilogy. You started going, you're bringing back the original 3 because they're still alive.
What
you
about
can bring
Lando?
back Lando. You're going to see the droids again. But this is going to be a really fun adventure to see where they go. I don't think a lot of fans anticipated getting those pieces, but not seeing them come together. The fact that we didn't get Luke, Leia, and Han together for one more moment in 7 is heartbreaking, especially when you have the tragic loss of Carrie Fisher. And then you get to Episode 8, and no one expected that they would kill Luke Skywalker off in 8. Everyone kind of thought it would be Leia, not because of Leia's death, but because Leia it was kind of Luke's story going into the sequel trilogy still. He had helped redeem Vader. The rebellion had crushed the Empire or begun to crush the Empire. And so we thought we were going to get all this mesh. We're not. But we're getting Lando now, and that should be exciting because I want to see remnants continue. You still need nostalgia to get you through this Episode 9. I think if JJ's going to do it right. So let us know what you think about Lando and everything we just said in the last 5 minutes because, we like your opinion. We want to know. And we also want to know what you think about Keri Russell because apparently Keri Russell now is going to be in Episode 9, which doesn't seem to be a surprise to many, David, because she's kind of in everything that J.J. Abrams touches.
Yep. She's one of 3 new cast members that have been and kind of announced. She's the only one who's been cast. There's allegedly 2 more, but they're not clear if she's going to be part of the Rebel Alliance or if she's going to be part of the Empire. Either way, I'm expecting a lot of action. I'm expecting a lot of physicality in her role based upon what she's been doing in the American. I've only seen an episode or 2 of that in passing, but I remember her in Mission Impossible 3, and I enjoy that series, so I don't know. I'm looking forward to her being in it. Well, welcome to the family.
Do we think that it's going to be a larger role, a cameo, more than a cameo, Jesse? I mean, kind of what do you expect? She does have a more impressive resume as you kind of build it out from her beginnings, and we know that she can do a more demanding role because of what David mentioned in the American. What do you think?
Well, I felt bad because when I first heard the name, I was just like,
Who?
I really was. I know that sounds really terrible, but
That's
so
terrible.
I was like, okay, I got it because it's on the podcast. I need to research it. So to be proud of me, I did my homework. So I looked
way to
it
brag
up
about
and
yourself.
I'm like, okay, here we go.
You want a cookie?
Mission Impossible 3.
Okay.
Which I loved Mission Impossible 3. It's probably my favorite out of all of them. And then We Were Soldiers. She was in that. So those are like 2 movies that I really enjoyed. So then it just kind of clicked like, okay, yeah, I've seen her in a lot of different things. As far as what kind of roles she have, I'd say maybe a side role. Like, I think we've gotten enough like new major characters out of like 8 and everything. Like, I'm kind of more of like a support role kind of thing.
She doesn't have to be a goodie. She could be a baddie.
And as far as
Here's my
Maybe
question.
she's one of the Knights of Ren.
You know what? I'm so glad you just said that because I was thinking something
was that
very
what you were
similar.
gonna say?
I think so because think about it. JJ gets to come back and finish this trilogy. The Knights of Ren was one of the 2 biggest teases that he gave us post, through The Force Awakens. Well, maybe there were 3, but this and how Maz got the lightsaber, right?
Yep.
What if she's one of the Knights of Ren? What if
cool.
she's one of the ones that escaped with Kylo?
I'd be all on board for that.
I'm down with it.
Kylo's new kind of love interest that dictates how he makes his decisions in his new empire now that Snoke is gone.
And I'm thinking about this now that we're on the topic. I rewatched The Last Jedi this morning. You have the Knights of Ren. I wonder if it, like the term Sith dies, because at the end of The Last Jedi, he's like, I want to kill the Sith, I want to kill the Jedi, the Resistance, everything that has to do with the past, I want to kill it. So, like, I wonder if you have the Knights of Ren, who are dark side Force users with red lightsabers, will Kylo fall in 9? Because I feel like Kylo has to die. Kylo dies, and then you have this remnants. Do they just go ahead and say, okay, we're the Sith? And the rule of two is out, and now it's game on. Because I'm going to be hard-pressed to think that a time jump of 3 years, which is realistically what we're going to get, is enough time for Rey to find a dozen kids and suit them up with lightsabers and start her own academy. It doesn't make sense. Luke took 2 decades, even more, to start rebuilding his temple and his academy. So that's what I'm thinking. Do you think the Sith really is dead after this?
That's a really interesting question because I would say the entire movie is let go of the past, kill it if you have to, and
right.
he keeps repeating it. For one, there's that one moment where we first see Kylo, and that first moment he enters Snoke's throne room, he's got the helmet on and everything, and he's like, "I've given everything to you in the dark side." So he's acknowledging the light on the dark side of the Force, and the Sith has always been obviously dark side. So
right,
maybe the terms, but honestly, Kylo is kind of full-on embodiment of the Sith Lord.
I just wish.
Now.
Yeah, I hope the classification of the Jedi and the Sith continue on, and you're led to believe that also by the end of the Last Jedi, because Luke says, or alludes to at least, that Rey is the next Jedi. You know what is dead? He had to kill it. It was a must. Mark Hamill got rid of the beard. It happened. Of course, that thing can regrow. He's still pretty young and spry. He can get that facial hair back if he needed to. But Slash Film was the one that dropped this article. I believe it was Slash that started all this, talking about how he shaved the beard. So does this have any indication of his role in Episode 9? Now, when he is asked by media, he is always I'm always the last one to be told. I don't know. I don't think I am. I haven't heard anything so far. Is it pretty much a guarantee he's back as a Force ghost in Episode 9? It would be a monster mistake, right, not to have him in there.
I think he should be a Force ghost.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think there needs to be that moment. He had that moment with Obi-Wan.
I want Luke to sit on a
at the end of
log.
Return of the Jedi, he sees his father, he sees Obi-Wan, he sees Yoda. I think it'd be extremely appropriate. He became one with the Force, so why not? Why can we not see him?
I want to see
talk
Luke
Rey?
sit on a log. That's really important for a ghost to sit down on a log.
So you've watched the movie Last Jedi more recently than I have. I recall in the movie we only get 2 of the 3 lessons he promised Rey.
Right.
But the third one they
Deleted
filmed
scene.
and put in the deleted scenes. So since the deleted scene wasn't in the movie, do you think that he will come back as a Force ghost and give that third lesson to Rey?
Possibly. That'd be a little bit more tricky, I think, having Rey now left the island. Maybe the third lesson isn't situational. I don't know. That's actually a really good question. I mean, it's going to have to be some kind of education. I guess where I'm debating with this whole Luke Force Ghost thing is, how big of a role is it going to be? Is it going to be like Alec Guinness in Return of the Jedi, where he shows up once on Dagobah and then you hear him later on, or is this a thing where you're going to have a 2.5 hour movie here, and Ghost Luke is going to be hanging out for 45 minutes of the movie?
I don't need him that much, but I do want him to teach Rey how to be a Jedi.
The other thing about this, for me, in my mind, guarantees that we'll see Hamill again in the next movie is actually his statement to Kylo during their duel. I'll see you around, kid.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So it's one of those things where it's just
oh, if he just comes back and doesn't talk to Rey and just tortures Kylo Ren the entire time,
That'd be kind of cool. We've never, and he joked about that months ago, talking about how you've never seen an angry Force ghost.
I'm just for me, in my mind, both. I want to see him actually, because it's like Yoda showed up to actually instill some, masterly wisdom about, failure is the greatest thing you can pass on to your students. Kind of the same thing here. I'd like to see him kind of and maybe show up and maybe apologize to Rey, for being so cynical and everything, and I guess disillusioned on some level.
I think that's yes. I can go with that. I like your idea that he comes back and they somehow rework the third lesson, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, but the way I interpreted the third lesson is being not about you, but being completely selfless. You see her run across the island, and she thinks that the Guardians are under attack, and it turns out that they're just dancing and stuff, and Luke basically lies to her. It's a whole thing. Go watch the deleted scene. It maybe should have stayed in the movie. I'm not sure. I didn't like it.
Part of me actually wants it to stay in the movie because how it ends. I mean, he was trying to actually kind of make a joke,
Right.
and everything, and there was kind of that tease of like humor, that light-sided part of Luke there, even though it was
Yeah, but this
really
is the movie,
bad
man.
joke. But
You got the movie. The movie that you got is the movie that you have.
special edition, David.
Do you think we get flashbacks in episode 9? I'm thinking about it because they shaved his beard. He can get a beard back if he needed to for scenes. Do you think we're gonna do flashbacks now that Rian Johnson made that a thing in Star Wars? Seeing him in his prime, maybe.
Maybe that's why they shaved him. If they do something with the Knights of Ren, I think they need to talk a little more about how they got started, and I could see that being a flashback as opposed to a story.
I think there's like a 5% chance that we get a flashback where we get to go back and see Luke in his prime, and we kind of know how, as far as how the Knights of Ren, how did they know to meet Kylo, destroy the temple, slaughter the rest of the younglings, and then move out? When you think about
I don't think the Knights of Ren are a sole creation of Kylo. He's got a part in it, but I feel like he did this, and because Leia says, it was Snoke. So where does Snoke come into the picture into young Ben, tempting young Ben? Where does that come from? I want those answers.
I want Snoke to be Plagueis so bad.
I don't know. There's a rumor going out there that they actually think that there's a way that the Emperor is going to come back for Episode 9. Like somehow Palpatine will still be a part of 9, and I hope that's not the case. I would love there to be Plagueis as the puppeteer where he had...
In the EU, Palpatine did come back, I believe, twice.
Yeah, he had
via
clones.
And everything.
I'm not about it. Not about that life, Jesse.
Nope.
Are you about that life? I hope you're not, but if you are, I'll still respect it because we are all in the fandom together, and we all get to have our own opinion. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Whether about Keri Russell's getting casted or what we just got done talking about with Hamill. Give us a different reason why Mark Hamill had to shave his beard. You got any funny ideas? You think he was tired of having, mid-afternoon snacks caught in the beard? You think he was not, gray enough, not brown enough, If you have a theory about why he got rid of the beard, let us know down below. I guess the last thing that I want to talk about here is the fact that we got our first look at Star Wars Resistance, which is that next animated project with Dave Filoni at the helm. This was done in France at a convention, and we got 2 images. We had the logo, but now we're seeing an image of the cast and crew, at least the characters of it. And
Cartoons.
Right. And again, this is somewhat anime influenced. So, David, if I can just start with you, your first impressions, considering the fact that I had to strong-arm you 8 years after Clone Wars came out to watch it, and then you still haven't finished the Clone Wars. What are your thoughts?
I have finished the Clone Wars.
Or Clone Wars, the
I haven't
Rebels.
finished Rebels. So I'll once again be the negative Nancy and say I'm not excited for a show about Poe Dameron and BB-8.
But it's not about them. They'll randomly show up. Same thing with Phasma.
They say there's going to be a lot of BB-8 in it. And Poe Dameron in the picture was one of the bigger featured.
Because at this
heads.
point, Poe's going to be more recognizable than half the.
I'll watch it with you.
You will? You promise?
I will watch it with you.
Okay. See, he's told me a lot of things over the years. I've known this man for 15 years. Okay, he's lying. No, he'll watch it with us.
I'll watch it with you.
If we get the pizza and the beer, he'll watch it with us. Jesse, what do you think about it?
I have to agree with David.
Oh my gosh! What?
Go team.
This is ridiculous. How do you not get excited about this?
I am excited because of the time period and everything, and the other characters there. I didn't really want. It's kind of like with Rebels. We saw 3PO and R2 like once, twice. I don't want to see BB-8 and Poe Dameron, every couple episodes. Like that's. I mean, if it works,
there's nothing that has said that.
Why does Disney keep trying to take my lightsabers?
I think you're going to get that in the movies, and I think you're going to get that with Jon Favreau's TV series. I don't know why they're not trying to appeal with kids with lightsabers. You're probably not going to see lightsabers in this series at all unless Kylo Ren shows up. Or, based on the timeline, I guess Luke could show up.
Rey?
No, this would be pre-Rey. Pre-Rey.
Okay.
So...
I'm just saying, all I'm saying is like, I don't want the series to constantly show these characters. Like it's kind of like with Rebels, we had all these new characters with a few cameos. I'm okay with that. I just don't want to see them every couple episode.
Emmy nominated Rebels. So good. It makes me happy.
And
It's
you
a se-
haven't finished it.
I haven't.
You should, because I hated Rebels when it first started, and I loved the series by the time it ended.
I-
Dave
yeah.
Filoni is 2 for 2 with me. 3 for 3 if you
I am
include
trying
Avatar.
very hard not to pirate things anymore.
I own it all on Blu-ray.
I don't have a Blu-ray player.
You have me as a friend. Just visit me.
You moved.
Oh, God, you're so outrageous.
You live 26 minutes away.
I'm excited about this. I think you should be excited about this series. It doesn't come out for several more months, but the thing that excites me about this the most is it's continuing to expand. It is finding a lot more new characters, and I think we're making a couple of assumptions at this table. Right now we don't know just how much Phasma we're going to get. We don't know how much Poe we're going to get. If we are going to get a lot of BB-8, that could be interesting. It's a character that I think a lot of the younger fans identify with, and go back to the original trilogy. I'm sure that our parents really identified. Okay, maybe our parents were still too old, but the kids of that time, of the late 70s, I'm sure they identified with R2-D2 and C-3PO. The merchandise in the movie, right? The action figures, the droids were always the relatable ones. They're the ones you saw everything through their eyes.
Maybe this will be the TV show that finally gets me to like Captain Phasma and Poe Dameron.
Now that I think is very unlikely. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to like all the new characters. I think you're going to still be let down by the characters that you already know. I'm hoping that Jon Favreau's TV series is the one that gets me away from this cautious.
Revitalized.
I want to see a lot of lightsabers in his stuff, and I also want Benioff and Weiss to do the freaking Sith Wars, Old Republic. Let's make it happen.
Yep.
That's what I want. Okay, let's dive into now Stasher Blasted. We're always kind of reinventing the way the show works, and I think Stasher Blasted just works. A topic that we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on, but we wanted to mention. Mangold is not going to be the director as of right now for the Boba Fett movie. Stasher Blasted. Jesse.
Okay, well, I went and you're going to hate me because I actually want to talk about this.
No, you can't right now. So you got to stash it or blast it, big guy.
I can't then.
What do you mean?
I can't actually stash it or blast it without discussing it.
Why?
Because of the circumstances of everything that's been said, there's no way to actually put a coin on that.
Well, the thing about it is, it was never made official that Mangold was the director, right?
No, but I'm not going to blast it either, though. Like he is responding to in this particular information that you posted, and I actually saw this before the.
I'm so proud that he actually read the notes.
To a negative comment about.
He never reads the notes.
A Twitter user basically tweeted to him, and
He's
said,
ignoring what I just told him.
I know. And tweeted to him that, hey, we don't need this movie, and he's like, well, I'm not. That's not what I'm working on right now. And I think you're failing to mention that he also tweeted out recently that he thinks a lot of the negative fan backlash right now is actually very bad in a sense because it's going to scare away promising directors from actually wanting to attempt to do anything in the Star Wars
There's
franchise.
already a few directors that have come out saying that they're not going to touch the franchise anymore.
Because of that. So I think, honestly, fine. You didn't like The Last Jedi. Fine. You didn't like it. That's your business. Simmer down because you're going to completely kill the whole thing if you keep it up.
The only reason why he's so emotional about this is if it's a Boba Fett movie. If this was Salacious Crumb, a Star Wars story, Jesse would not be... Would you really? A Salacious Crumb?
Yeah, I watched the Ewok movies, for heaven's sake.
Oh, God, those were so terrible.
They were terrible, but I still watched them.
It was like Home Alone.
So, I really, I agree with what Mangold says, but he's not confirming nor denying because right now, he can't confirm if he is doing one. Not until he gets permission.
Now, I was reading that all of the unannounced movies that we've gotten rumors about have all been put on hold indefinitely for the moment until Disney can figure out what they're doing with Kathleen Kennedy and the potential change up in
There's
leadership.
a lot of dust that needs to settle
strategy.
and everything.
Which is why I say stash it, because even if you look at the movies that they are going to keep on the docket, which we've gone through before, Benioff and Weiss, the Rian Johnson trilogy, you're talking about at least 7 movies.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do more than one movie a year. So I guess, James, I'd love to see you do the Boba Fett movie, but I also
Yes.
know that movie, the earliest, could happen 7 years from now.
I'm okay with that.
I don't think...
I don't want to see him scared away, and I don't want to see other directors scared away.
I want him to do it. I want to stash that right now. He's not directing that movie.
I would stash that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now that we've discussed it.
I just... Do you feel better?
I do. I feel
you-
I feel relaxed.
Okay,
Get that
good.
off your
Because
chest.
I'm here to make sure that you feel good. That's why we're all here, to make sure that you feel
This is something that's really just been
definitely
like,
pent up.
yeah, like
We
because
saved a kitten by letting you vent. That's good.
really did.
David, do you sash or blast this thing?
I'm gonna blast it. I would really like to see a James Mangold Boba Fett movie, especially if it's gonna have the feel, the grittiness, the foul language that we got out of Logan.
A Logan-styled Star Wars movie with Boba Fett. That's all we want.
Yep.
It will work really well. Pages, Pixels, Pieces is the next segment of our show. Thanks for watching episode 41 of Beyond the Blast Doors. Hey, by the way, if you like Han Solo, we do have Solo Shot First t-shirts still available right now. You can buy those right now. Also, become a Patreon supporter. That's a great way to get exclusive prints and shirts and pins and more. Pages, Pixels, and Pieces, the segment brought to you by the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. Proud to have our local comic book shop as our official sponsor. Comics, collectibles, toys, Magic the Gathering, and board games. The Fantasy Shop in St. Louis, proudly serving the St. Louis area since 1981. We have a slew of books, and maybe my favorite week in Star Wars comics in a long time, because I got to read on Star Wars 50. We had the new Darth Vader. We got the excerpt from Darth Vader Annual 2. You had Thrawn number 6. You had the Star Wars Adventures on there. And so we'll hit a couple of these. Let's go ahead and start with, you know what? I want to start with Star Wars number 50, if you guys don't mind, because I was really blown away. First off, love the two covers that came out for this book. The one with the Executor diving straight down, I thought was pretty sweet, but also that Blue Leia cover is pretty spectacular as well. We have a situation where the rebellion is, it's post that conflict on Moncala, and you have the rebellion kind of converging on the space station, and you have this conversation between Leia and Trios. They're talking about how, Leia's pulled this all off, gathered the rebellion, and then it all goes to hell very quickly. The station's not working. Nothing is working. The shield's not working. The docking bay doors won't close. There's ships coming out of hyperspace. It's the Empire. The Empire unveils the Executor, which to me is really cool because I remember just how terrifying that was the first time I saw Empire Strikes Back, right? You see just what could be this big that's dwarfing these Star Destroyers? I mean, the only thing it could be would be a Death Star, right? And then you learn about the Executor. David, I want to start with you. Star Wars number 50, it shows this Queen Trios backstabbing once again. What did you think about the issue?
Not really surprised. That was hinted to at the last issue. That
It's
she
been
was
hinted in like
backstabbing.
every issue with her.
The artwork in this one just seems to be getting better and better. The faces don't upset me as much as they used to.
Okay, so Salvador's coming around.
The faces are starting to look better. The rest of the art, I think, is really cool. But I really, really like the arcs that we've been having between the Star Wars line and the Darth Vader line, both happening on Mount Cala at the same time. So now that both of those arcs have kind of wrapped up and seen where the story is going next, I think it's really cool that the Empire has started, or the Rebellion is starting to get new ships. They've got new allies with the Mount Cala. There's open rebellion. So there's some really cool images here with explosions and things blowing up.
Something I'm not totally familiar with in the new Star Wars canon is seeing the different kinds of bases the Rebellion had. A lot of my knowledge came from games like Empire at War or Star Wars Battlegrounds. And this battle station that we get here, Jesse, in issue number 50, is very reminiscent of that Empire at War station, and a game that I have a lot of love for. Was there anything that particularly stuck out with you? I really just, like David mentioned, I just like seeing the Rebellion kind of pulled together because usually they're always on the run.
Yeah, it's nice seeing all this stuff kind of like tie in. Like I have to agree, like, we had these two story arcs that were basically, running side by side, and then we get this. And I agree with you, absolutely terrifying to see the Executor, like, because then, they reel it back and you see just your standard Star Destroyer, and then you just, I'm sitting there going, does it have how many shopping malls in it? It's Spaceballs, right? But like, yeah, what I'm saying, like, this is a huge ship, and like I loved everything about Star Wars. That thing's probably got like a crap ton of firepower.
What do you think of Vader? in this issue. Menacing.
Very menacing, very different than what we've been seeing in the Charles Soule comics.
We're like 15 years later on.
Yeah, so I mean, you get
a
the
lot
same,
more confident.
but you're getting a lot of different body language, a lot more menacing. And I have to agree, like the artwork, I skimmed through this one. I'm still struggling with, the
facial.
style. It is better than previous issues.
What I like about this, especially with Vader, because we brought him up, just how he toys with the rebellion. Comes out of hyperspace in the Executor, and through the Force, he senses that, it's not time to attack yet, because the rebels don't fully understand just how much danger they're in. And so the rebels continue to lose their mind. They're trying to evacuate ships. They're trying to go on the offensive. The docking bay doors don't open, and then Vader's like, "Now is the time," And so it's exciting to see where issue 51 allows us to go, because the assumption, I think, it would be complete obliteration, and only a miracle is going to allow these rebels to escape.
And I love the very last page when he's watching the battle cruiser blow up, and his response is simply "most satisfactory." And then one of his underlings says, "Next target, my lord," and his response is "hope." It just it's great big shiny helmet on the page.
Yulin does good work, man. He's a good writer.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about Darth Vader 18. I briefly want to mention Darth Vader Annual number 2. Chuck Wendig is writing this issue, and I cannot tell you how excited I am. Did you guys get a chance to look at this?
I saw the preview. But
You won't hurt my heart if you didn't read it.
Well, the Annual 2 hasn't come out yet. It's
Right, it's just a
18th.
preview.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a preview.
I'm excited. Like, I actually want to read that line now because I haven't. I've been focused completely on Charles Soule's stuff. So like,
Well, this is Charles Soule's. So this is Darth Vader Annual 2. This is the annual for that Charles Soule run.
Okay.
And it's taking Vader and Tarkin to Scarif. And I could be wrong here. I haven't confirmed. I'm sure someone has tweeted at Charles Soule, or not Charles Soule, but tweeted at Chuck. I tweeted at Chuck. I was like, "Hey, dude, can we?"
did.
Yeah, I was
actually,
like, "Hey, dude, can we talk about?" I don't know how I forgot about this. I'm like, "Hey, dude, can we talk about where this is on the timeline?" He's like, "Next week." The vibe I get is this is like right after Rogue One. I'm assuming the rebels have just stolen the plans. You have Tarkin coming down to the planet and finds Vader inside the vault, looking at the plans of Stardust. Now, here's the thing. How could he be looking at the plans of Stardust if the rebels just took them? Okay, well, the plans could have been recovered from up top. I don't. Well, no, it has to be because how Scarif wouldn't be in existence.
Well, Scarif, the planet, like they didn't blow it up completely.
No, but the tower. I'm pretty sure they're in that tower.
The tower is pretty much obliterated, I think.
Right.
So.
Okay, so it has to be pre. I got too excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like 95% sure this is before Rogue One.
Yes,
But it's still going to Scarif, though.
yes.
And I think any trip to Scarif with Tarkin and Vader should get you real sweaty.
The
Yeah.
synopsis is that Darth Vader intends for the Emperor to hold no secrets from him, which means it's time to dig into the pet project of Governor Tarkin and Orson Krennic, the massive battle station being built on Geonosis. The opportunity arises when the project is hindered by sabotage from unknown forces. The Emperor calls on his Dark Enforcer to root out the source of the treachery that threatens to destabilize the Empire's galactic ascent.
Okay, and this still has to be very early on because the Death Star is referenced as still being constructed over Geonosis.
Yeah.
Which is that's like the first 10 years of this thing. If you don't know, in canon, in the new canon, basically what happened was the Empire took the entire Geonosian race, made them labor to construct the Death Star. At one point, there's a mutiny, and like 2 million Geonosians get blown up, in an early on phase of the Death Star construction, which is pretty cool. I wish there was more on that. Read the Tarkin novel. The Tarkin novel, where do I have it? It's right here. Boom.
More that's covered in Rebels, too.
Yeah.
You learn that basically.
James Luceno, who also wrote a book that should never have been not canon, the Darth Plagueis book, that
love
should have
that
always
cover
stayed.
art.
But James Luceno's Tarkin novel, you got to read this if you want to have a really good appreciation. This and Rogue One, the novelization, Catalyst, all three books back to back to back. Great reads. Anything that we want to, I think we've really nailed that one. I guess we need to go ahead and dive into Darth Vader 18 because that's the one that I think it has Jesse lactating right now. Okay, you're not going to talk about it? Okay, that's great. Okay, so
No, I'm not.
Darth
I'm
Vader
just trying
number
to
18.
figure out how to recover from that one.
We,
So I've got an embarrassing story on Darth Vader 18.
oh, God.
I
what?
started reading Darth Vader 18, and I had no idea what was going on.
Why?
So I went back and looked at Darth Vader 17,
Okay.
and apparently I never read it.
David.
So I was apparently a month behind, and I don't know how I didn't know that.
Probably because you're not showing up at the podcast anymore.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I was probably out in New Mexico when that happened.
I know. You've been traveling all over the world.
So I was really excited for Darth Vader 17 and 18.
Okay, so you got them back to back. So what I really, I'm trying to think of the best way to start this one. First off, also the Moncala conflict in this point of the timeline for the Darth Vader run has ended. So this is kind of like an in-betweener, a filler issue, but it's a great issue. Basically, Vader tells Tarkin to hunt him. And we're in the middle of the hunt. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that kind of threw me for a loop because I forget that because I'm still relatively new to like comics and everything, so it was like, how did we get here? Like, what happened? Why is Tarkin hunting Vader?
We
basically?
just finished a fish fry on Moncala, and now he's draped with this dragon wing. Oh my gosh!
So like, no, but as filler comic, absolutely enjoyable. Lots of action, for one, and just kind of really like you get two different perspectives. Like a lot of respect for Tarkin because it's just like, man, like him and Thrawn, like like those two in the same room are coming up with like a battle plan would just scare me. Like I would just surrender before they even started.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like what we got with like Lords of the Sith. There's a little Tarkin in there. It reminds me of in the Tarkin novel that I just told you about. He talks in that novel about being a hunter, and so just this kind of recurring theme, Tarkin being the hunter, is really satisfactory. I like how he just loses all these men. He doesn't care.
Yep.
He's lost 6 people to Vader's lightsaber. It's all right.
Well,
It was a good lesson.
And he's like analyzing it the entire time. Well, I lost this, and then like he's talking about
To figure out how far away he can be from Vader, for Vader not to use the Force on him, he just kept throwing men at him.
Didn't he even say that it was worth it at one point? Let me go try to find that.
Well, yeah, because Tarkin's just trying to figure out just how powerful Vader is. It took him, I think, they lost 6 men trying to steal his lightsaber away, so now Tarkin has Vader's lightsaber.
But this is the scary thing. This is still a relatively early Darth Vader. So fast forward to The Empire Strikes Back. Vader is able to choke, an admiral to death on another Star Destroyer when he jumps in above Hoth, too close. Mm-hmm. So this is eventually, even if Tarkin would survive, by no means was that a safety.
Well, we now
safety
know,
net.
We now know that you can teleport yourself essentially across the galaxy, so anything is possible. It is possible.
Yeah.
But Vader's pretty raw on this issue. Anything else that stick out to you, David?
No, I just really liked it. It was a filler, but I really liked the filler.
I think it was great, and you need these issues to kind of give you a break, and it also allows you, if you haven't been reading the comics, here's a great point for you to jump in. Here's a single 22-page story. Now you're to come in on a new run in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, I believe, is when 19 drops, and it kind of allows you to catch your breath, which I think is always a good thing. Thrawn 6, do we need to spend a whole lot of time on it?
Man.
It's as usual. It's on my to-do list.
You haven't read the novel yet, so I'm not even going to worry about
I'm
it.
preparing.
David, do you have anything?
This series started out really, really exciting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now that I've read all 6 issues, it was because I really liked the backstory of Thrawn, how he was discovered, how he kind of used his savvy to get through the ranks and get promoted. Mm-hmm. But the overall plot line with the Night Swan and you keep telling me to watch Rebels to learn more about
Price.
But neither one of those storylines really garnered my attention. Like, they were boring to me. They weren't exciting. The stakes weren't high enough for me for Thrawn to do some exciting things. So it was like I started with a what's even the like a I don't know. It started really good and then it sucked.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty.
Was the book better?
I would say the book was better, but I also think that this cuts through a lot of the. There'd be 5 pages describing, how Thrawn sneezed into his handkerchief, and you don't have that with the comic. It's a lot more. Here's
So
what it is.
It's written like Tolkien.
Kind of, yeah.
So I mean, the first 2 issues or so I loved. I thought it was great. The artwork was consistently awesome throughout the entire thing. I just wish, and no knock on the comic since it was based on the book. I just wish the stakes would have been higher. I wish that the bad guys would have Thrawn's bad guys. So I guess really the good guys would have been more engaging to me. Night Swan just wasn't exciting. I didn't like anything about Price whatsoever.
Well, then you'll be excited to know that the next topic on Beyond the Blast Doors is a new excerpt from Thrawn Alliances, the second novel of the new Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy. And this excerpt features Padme Amidala. All right, we're all really excited about Padme Amidala. Did you guys get a chance to read the excerpt?
I skimmed
Nope,
through.
you didn't. It's all right.
No,
David?
this one I did not.
Go ahead.
Hey, no, I did quickly skim through it, but not all of it. Simply because I haven't read the first book. I want to read the first book. And once I finish that, I'm excited because I can read the first book and go into the second book right away.
Just take it off my shelf. For the love of God, just read the damn book. Just read the damn book. I won't ruin it for you, but if you want to find the excerpt, I've got the link right now under this video. It's also on the website, but it's at StarWars.com. You can read the excerpt. The Padme art that you're seeing, that is going to be a Barnes & Noble exclusive. So I always buy my books from Barnes & Noble, and so I'll be sure to get that artwork. I'm also excited because I'm fingers crossing here. I'm hoping that the San Diego Comic-Con cover might also be a Barnes & Noble exclusive. Fingers crossed. I don't know. I just really like how the young Thrawn and young Anakin look next to each other. That's going to do it for Pages, Pixels, and Pieces. We have some comic books to give away. That means we have Darth Vader 18 to give away, Star Wars 50 to give away. We have a Star Wars Adventures to give away. I believe Thrawn 6 to give away, which is really exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, this week's hashtag is Where's Trios? Where's Trios? She is the princess, or the queen rather, from Star Wars 50 that conveniently left the ballroom before the Empire showed up and the entire station started having an all-systems failure. So Where's Trios is the hashtag. So all you have to do is be a subscriber to our channel, comment down below on this video, comment with the hashtag Where's Trios, and then you have entered our contest. We'll hold this drawing for about 2 weeks. We'll announce the winner on our social media. And also on here, if we remember. Most times we don't, so we usually have to update on social media. And we have to blow up your Gmail, so that way you know that you're the winner. But that is the hashtag. So hashtag Where's Trios. We'll let you know in 2 weeks who wins those books. And a great selection of books, even if you're just in for the cover art. Stellar cover staff, absolutely. That Vader 18 with Tarkin hiding behind the tree is pretty stellar. So once again, Pages, Pixels, Pieces brought to you by the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. Proud to have our local comic book shop as our official sponsor, not just of this segment, but also of the entire show. Comics, collectibles, toys, Magic the Gathering, and board games. Proudly serving St. Louis since 1981. It's the Fantasy Shop in St. Louis. Staying on target is the next and final segment of our show, episode 41. We're kind of going hyperspeed right now. We're like Admiral Holdo, about to go through Thrawn's ginormous supremacy, large,
I was going to say ludicrous,
obtruse, ludicrous speed. I'm tired of the Spaceballs references, okay? I'm tired of it. Staying on target this week, all things San Diego Comic-Con. It's coming up, I believe starts on the 19th, right? 19th?
Yeah, 19th through the 22nd.
Okay, so we won't be there. Spoilers. But we will be there for Star Wars Celebration in April, which we're pretty excited about. But let's kind of start with the schedule of things, which I want David to helm. And then David's going to kind of rattle off the schedule. And then we'll talk about what events we think is pretty exciting. And then I want to dive into one of the particular workshops, which is the Clone Wars 10th anniversary. We'll talk little collectibles, and then we'll just round this show up. How's that sound? Let's start with the schedule,
Sounds
David.
good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to get some of the standard things that you'd expect to see, like one on the Hasbro toys that they do. There's going to be some publishing ones talking about books, but there's a couple of them that really get me excited. First, they're going to do one on the locations of Star Wars filming. It's going to be like Star Wars tourism. So everything from like Tunisia to the different places that they film different scenes.
The Pinewood Studios.
Yeah, well, some of it. But, when they get out of the studios.
Right.
But how to get there, where to find the Star Wars stuff they shot at, So basically like a tour plan on how to actually go visit the different things.
It's like Star Tours, but not a waste of your time, money, and
Right.
soul.
So they're going to have something
I
like
like
that,
Star
which will be really
Tours.
cool. There are a whole bunch of workshops talking about the women in Star Wars, which has kind of been a recurring trend since Disney took the helm of this.
Yeah.
So expect to see 5 or 6 of those. Here is my ultimate favorite. Let me see if I can't find the description.
And while you're searching for that, I just want to bring up anything to bring the diversity to the forefront. Totally cool with. Excited about the Hasbro thing. Hopefully, I know we're gonna talk about it, but the Black Series toys are gonna be pretty sweet. Did you find that?
Yes.
Okay. What do we got?
So this is the court-martial mock trial of Poe Dameron.
What?
And I am stoked and excited because I don't like Poe. I think he's a liability. And here's where they're going to actually give us some
So we're saying like Last Jedi. This is like a post Last Jedi Poe Dameron.
So here's the description. The Legal Geeks and the Rebellion Legion Sunrider base present the mock court-martial of everyone's favorite X-Wing ace, Poe Dameron. Based on the events of The Last Jedi, Poe stands accused of disobeying General Leia Organa and leading a mutiny aboard the Resistance flagship Raddus against Vice Admiral Amilyn Holdo.
Admiral Raddus.
Lawyers for the prosecution and defense, including a U.S. Army JAG attorney, will take on Poe's case in front of United States Magistrate Judge Mitch Dembin. Participating attorneys include, and then there's like 5 or 6 of them. And then Rachel Williams is going to be General Leia Organa, and Marcus Holt will be Poe Dameron. I guess they're going to put them on the stand and interview them. But this one is 8 to 9 a.m., room 7AB on Friday the 20th. And to me, this is the one that's going to be really exciting because I'm not a Poe fan.
No, I think that's probably one. It shows how far will Star Wars fans take the fandom. 2, that's like a lot of. There's gonna be like a real world lawyer battling for Poe Dameron. That's exciting. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw that. I skimmed. I'm excited about it. For one, the best part is that give or take a couple days, that will probably end up on YouTube, so you could probably find it and watch the whole thing, which will be absolutely just awesome and probably hilarious to watch at the same time.
Yep. I like that they're letting fans poke fun at Poe Dameron because, like, for every reason that you mentioned, because
He's a liability. He gets stuff blown up. He leads
But-
mutinies, sends people on pointless missions to Canto Bight, wasting 40 minutes of our time in the theater.
that's
Well,
the biggest
that's
crime
breaking
of
down
all.
like that. What is that? That third barrier or whatever. No, but like in all seriousness, I mean, like I actually don't think he would be court-martialed. He was already reprimanded by Leia after the bomber fiasco. He was demoted and slapped. I mean, that's a pretty big insult. Just
Oh,
on
he
its
was slapped. Do you know that they had to practice that scene like 45 times?
Did they?
I
That's
know.
not slapping.
That's probably because
Carrie
Carrie
Fisher-
Fisher loves slapping somebody.
Carrie
so,
Fisher slapped him like 45 times.
So, so I mean, with that being said, like I don't think you could actually argue like that as like evidence with his actions later on, because for one, Leia was comatose. When that went on, it only ended. That mutiny ended only because Leia woke up, and she could have just shot him. She had the ability to just shoot him, and because I mean that mutiny usually ends with execution.
Do you hear the passion in Jesse's voice right now? Imagine like 300 Jessies in a room talking about Poe
Putting him on
Dameron.
trial.
That's what you're going to get at this trial. It's going to be like 300 Jessies.
Yeah.
And I love you, buddy. Like, I do. But it's going to be a lot of you. And that's a lot of you.
Yep.
That's going to be intense. That is going to be intense. I pray for Poe Dameron to survive that court trial.
The other one that I'll mention out there, this will kind of get our cosplay fans kind of excited. So you, Jesse, and the hundreds of out there who listen to us.
Jesse just lifts the entire set desk right now.
501st Legion is doing one on Star Wars villainous costuming, focusing on Stormtroopers, Tusken Raiders, Boba Fett, Kylo Ren, bringing them from the silver screen into reality.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think anything, I mean, and speaking as someone who doesn't cosplay, I think it's cool that they are providing opportunity at these conventions to educate and to provide advice, because that's the thing I enjoyed. Even when we went to Wizard, they had a whole workshop of experienced cosplayers talking about like materials to use and
That's
such.
actually one of the things that I know for a fact at Celebration. There'll be some sort of panel, and if it doesn't clash with anything, I want us to be there.
Okay.
Simply because I think
Which panel?
The cosplayer
usually
one.
they do like a cosplay, like the Mercs and everything. It's like a cosplay education panel.
Do I bring my bag of plumbing parts to this?
Yeah, you should bring your bag of plumbing parts.
Just go up to the guy and go, what do I do with this?
What do I do with this? Like this is the thing is that the 501st is one of the first recognized Star Wars costuming group and everything. So it's really great, especially with the 10th anniversary of Clone Wars, that they're having this event, which, I mean, really, it's just kind of like, they kind of feel like, I feel like they saved like a lot of things. Like the 501st, they basically started Star Wars costuming on a large scale, like made it accessible and understandable. Like, I know you guys doubt yourselves, but both of you could do something cosplay.
I just don't have the time.
I'd be Porkins.
Or the money. You would be an easy Porkins because you already have the weight.
But that's the point of some of
I'm
these
just
panels
kidding.
is they tell
Yeah, the haircut too.
they tell you how to do some of the stuff and be cost efficient
Right.
about it.
So let's bring it back to San Diego Comic-Con now because we've touched on a few of the workshops that really excite us.
But you wanted to talk about the
San Diego Comic-Con 10-year anniversary of the Clone
Yeah.
Wars. Because we know absolutely nothing about this other than the fact that we know that we're going to have Dave Filoni there. I think we're going to have our man, James Arnold Taylor, present. I'm sure you're going to have Ahsoka Tano herself. You're going to have,
D. Bradley Baker's going to be
okay,
there.
the voice of the clones.
Lanter, I think, was listed as being there.
Matt Lantner will be there as well.
Yeah.
So, excited to see them bring that whole, I mentioned Ahsoka. I know it's Ashley Eckstein. I just call Ashley Eckstein Ahsoka because that's who she is. But I'm excited to see what this panel is. We don't know what it will be, so speculations ensue. What will be? Is it going to be an unveiling? Is it going to just be, sitting around doing a Q&A? What are we going to get?
I don't know.
So there's a big rumor out there.
Okay.
Are we going to talk about this? Is this on your list?
You can talk about the rumor. It's just a rumor.
There's a big rumor that they are going to give give closure to the series.
Lies. That's not going to happen. There's no way.
But just
way.
imagine if it did. It would be the most amazing thing.
There's how will they close it? Because you can.
Comicbook.com seems to think that something D. Bradley Baker said about you're not going to want to miss this is going to lead to some sort of animation short of some sort that's going to bring it all to a close.
I would love that, but here's my issue with this. Okay, because you're not going to get 2 more seasons greenlit, and that's I believe how much was left, like 2 more seasons to tell, right? Because season 6, the Lost episodes, was halfway done, and then there was supposed to be a season 7, right? So I'm just gonna say 2 seasons. You've had part of this series wrapped up in Rebels, Maul, Son of Dathomir. You had the novel with Asajj Ventress, and oh man, what was that? Dark Disciples, that book. So there's been all these different attempts. We even got like incomplete episodes. Like they had like the animatronics done, but they didn't have the visual, like the graphics finished out. We had like 3 or 4 of those. I know that's how we even got the Cad Bane BOBA duel. So I mean, like we've gotten all this stuff is out there already. I don't see how they're gonna like. Well, okay, Dave. Well, after you get done with the Resistance, we'll pull you back here for a season and a half.
Okay, hear me out on this.
Oh God.
10th anniversary.
Yes.
That's a big number, right? You
10?
agree with that?
10, yes. 10. I was potty trained.
Okay,
I was
just
in the
because-
5th grade.
Think about it.
10.
They may not even like just think about it. Like maybe they're gonna introduce a new like box set, and this new box set features, maybe these completed seasons, if you will. At the same time, why? Like you mentioned the Boba Fett Cad Bane duel. Why show that? I feel like maybe that was like a hidden little tease that maybe possibly everybody missed. I would say it is plausible for them to,
Jesse.
circle back.
Jesse, listen. I was heartbroken after The Last Jedi when I did not see Luke Skywalker pull down a Star Destroyer from the sky or slaughter like 60 stormtroopers with his crimson blue lightsaber blade, okay? I do not want you to get built up, pent up, frustrated about the possibilities of getting a conclusion to Star Wars: The Clone Wars at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm telling you as a friend. I'm telling you as a fellow fan, okay? It's not. And that's why this debate is fun, because I could be wrong, you could be right, but you could be definitely wrong, and I could be saving you from a lot of pain. David, do you think we're going to get a finished Clone Wars conclusion here?
I could see them giving us another short,
Oh,
but not
okay.
like a full episode. I don't see them being in an auditorium with people watching 23 minutes, 22
Or a movie.
minutes of something.
Could it be a movie?
I don't think they're going to do that.
End
either.
the series like they started it, with a flop at the theater?
The other thing,
We'll know in a week.
Okay, fair enough.
the other thing is there's a lot of Clone Wars related DLC coming to Battlefront 2. So, I mean, some of that stuff is starting this summer.
I want you to be right, Jesse. Here's my thing. It better not be a comic book, and it better not be a novel. You have, okay, I take it back. It could be a novel.
I'd be okay with a novel.
As long as you had the original cast back for the audiobook.
Yeah.
That would be cool because
I listened actually before I read Ahsoka, I listened to the audiobook and it was voiced by Ashley.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, and the cool thing about Star Wars, I think we've talked about this too, is the audiobooks for Star Wars novels, it's like radio theater. They have the original score, they have all the sound effects. It's pretty intense.
Really good.
All right. So it might happen. What do you think is going to happen at this panel? 10 years since stop it. Don't entice them with that. 10 years since the start of Clone Wars. Let us know down in the comments below. I do want to touch on Hasbro. You mentioned the Hasbro panel.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the Black Series figures. I've got like 20 of them behind me on this shelf.
Yeah, you have a number of them on display behind you here.
I love them. I love the detail of them, the 6-inch figs. Looking forward to seeing what they unveil. I know that there's a Return of the Jedi Luke, which looks stellar. Return of the Jedi Luke with the green blade. I think Slideshow Collectibles is also releasing a Return of the Jedi Luke with the green saber.
They have a couple new ones, Sideshow does, but those are like super expensive, by the way. Minimal. I think the cheapest figure I saw starts at $250.
Oh, Slideshow, they're so expensive.
But we're talking like, imagine shrinking the actual character off the screen, freezing them in plastic, and boom.
Oh, it's super
Like,
detailed.
it's super detailed.
But which is why I like the Black Series figures, because I'm getting a lot of quality for $21. David, I'm not sure if you had that link pulled up or not, but
I can.
The variety of figures, I believe that we get a Tarkin in the mix. I believe there's a new Stormtrooper in the mix. I want to say that there's a Mandalorian in the mix.
they've got a Rey and a Kylo here, and
They have another Kylo, and do they have another Rey? I thought I
these
saw.
almost seem like a mock, kind of like
Okay.
they're like on special like decorative, like kind of like how this Boba Fett is on your shelf. It's got like the
a
platform.
little scene versus
Yeah,
just an
like the
action
scenery
figure.
and everything.
Black Series is doing that where you have like a Rey and the Kylo, and you put them together, they can light up, which is kind of cool. They did that in this last wave. They had the Luke on Hoth out of the Snowsuper.
Article? I'm only seeing two. I'm only seeing a Han and
The article that we have here is we've got the Rey and Kylo and their duel on Starkiller Base.
Right.
And then we have a Empire Strikes Back Han Solo with a Minok.
Minok, yeah.
Yeah, Screen Rant posted that about the Minok one, which looks fine. I like the first two. I really like the look of Rey and Kylo because that's going to be a nice shelf piece, as you say.
The only thing I noticed about the Rey and Kylo one, and I don't know if it's just maybe the picture, but when I was looking at it actually this morning again, it appears that Kylo has his facial scar, which would not be accurate for this figure to have if that's the case. Like again, it was a side view, but it does actually look like there's some sort of line. Very reminiscent to
Since the scar happened at the end of the battle,
yeah.
it's a minute detail.
Can you see it potentially? Like it's on
See, I don't get this sweaty about
I
action
can,
figures. I just like them being on display. If it has a lightsaber, I like that a lot. But I'm not going to be bothered by the scar.
It could just be the lighting, or however they had
not
this.
an
No,
action
I kind of
figure
want it to
guy.
be the scar, so you get a little pissed off. I think that'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be good. I like it when you get a little ramped up. I like it. You get passionate. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There was GameSpot dropped an article. I know that Hasbro's also got some action figures. Afra is going to have her own action figure.
Yeah, I don't
BT1 is going to have. 000 is going to have their own action figure. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, David, because that's a character. Those are 3 characters created in the comic world that are now deemed worth it financially to do action figures for.
Okay.
That's a pretty big
I
deal.
want a Bones action figure.
Bones would be cool. Out of Chuck Wendig's 3 novels.
That'd be fantastic.
Aftermath.
Make that happen, Hasbro.
That'd be really cool. Chuck Wendig is kind of like a friend of the show. No, I'm just kidding. He's tweeted us twice. But I'm really excited to see those characters because where I'm not a big fan of the Afra line, there's a lot of girls cosplaying as Afra. When we go to Star Wars Celebration, we're going to see a lot of Afras. I hope we see a BT1. I think that'd be a lot of fun. The killer astromech.
Well, that's the thing is like her character. I mean, honestly, it's there's certain cosplays that I feel are very entry level friendly. If you know a little bit of sewing and how to turn something into something else via like cloth and everything, like you can do a lot of amazing things.
All right, well, guys, that's going to do it for episode 41 of Beyond the Blast Doors. It's been a real trip. Is there anything that we're looking forward to the next coming week? Because obviously next week will be San Diego Comic-Con, so it'll be exciting to learn all the things that drop. I will say this, kind of wrap it up. I think if there's a portion of Star Wars storytelling that really needs to own it, either at San Diego Comic-Con, and if not, especially at Celebration, novelization. Because we only know about Thrawn Alliances right now as the only novel that we have to look forward to. They need to come out with something more. It's kind of been barren since Rogue One.
I didn't catch the name of the title. I caught it just in glancing the other day at work. But there's like a novel coming out that's actually canonizing a bunch of like old stuff.
Really?
Again, like I'll look into more of it. I'll get back to you guys.
Well, we have a
about this
laptop
week.
right here. Let's try and figure that out.
I can't think of the name of it though. It had like Mon Mothma.
Pablo Hidalgo just dropped a new book, or just confirmed a new book about droids, and taking you through a series of droids from the prequels to the sequel trilogy, and breaking down stats on that. I thought that was kind of interesting. I do want to go back. There was a lightsaber book that came out a few years ago that I'd like to check that out. But that's the thing, is I'm having to dig through the past 2.5 years to find content to read, because I'm fairly caught up. I finished Bloodlines. I've finished Leia, Princess of Alderaan. I've finished the Aftermath trilogy. Obviously I brag about Lords of the Sith, and I brag about Tarkin all the time. So I'm excited to learn more about this book. This is new information to me. Are you guys finding anything?
There's quite a few books out there. Thrawn Alliances, Jedi Academy, The Principal Strikes Back.
Are those...
Are you scared, Darth Vader?
But see, those aren't novels.
Those are
young
junior novels, activity
right.
books. Reference book, activity book, novel, junior novel, young reader, young reader, replica journal, young readers, junior novel.
Did you just try Googling book to read canon?
These are all of the list of future books in Star Wars that have been announced.
Well, what a cliffhanger to end episode 41 on. This is something that's exciting me and Look, David's balls deep in this right now.
I saw it in passing.
Well, we're going to dig into this, and we're going to try and find an answer for you on next week's episode 32. Don't forget to comment down below. Where's Trios is the hashtag to enter our comic book contest. A slew of books for you to read. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can be our Patreon supporter. You can also always catch us here on YouTube with our full episode, and also comic book hauls and all that. We got to do some haul videos soon. I got a whole short box of new books, so we got to get on that. But from the three of us to you, may the Force be with you.